Okay, thank you everyone for joining. So this is a completely non-technical talk. So today, as you can see, my talk is about maximizing potential, and we'll be sharing some insights about how we have conducted internship at QED42. So my name is Jaideep Singh Kandari, and I work at QED42 as a technical architect. I do a lot of technical stuff, but at the same time, I am also interested in knowing a lot about the people, working with people, know them, you know, all the challenges that they have. So I really like to talk to people and understand their challenges and possibly discuss or maybe help someone get over them, right? So this talk is entirely about the fresh comers that we can expect in Drupal world, right? So today I'm going to share a story. This story is about challenges, growth, and opportunity. It's a story that's not just about us, it's about the future of Drupal as well. And then since we are talking of new folks, right, so it's also about the new generation of talent that will come and shape the Drupal ecosystem that we have today, right? As I said before, I am going to talk a little bit about all the things that we have gone through in our organization, but at the same time I would like to hear from you as well as to what all challenges you might have faced in your organization, or what challenges you might have faced as a mentor, right? So all of these things we'll discuss in this talk, right? So overall, it's not actually four, it's largely three aspects. I'll talk a little bit about the impact first, and then the whole complete process that we have. I'll not go too much into detail, I'll just skim over through the high level aspect of what we have been doing, right? And then eventually I'll come to the problems that we face, and possibly here I would encourage you all to step up, and if you can share some of your problems, and possibly we can have a discussion around how we can solve this problem. We can do a crossover of the knowledge, right? So chapter 1, which is impact, right? So now I want to take a moment to shout out some of the incredible people who started as interns with QED42 and are now doing an amazing work. So here I have listed 3 folks. There are so many interns that we had over the years. I have just listed 3 just for the sake of doing a balance between some of the older folks and some of the newer folks that we have. So do you recognize some of the faces here? Anyone? Maybe if you can raise hands, right? A lot of hands I can see. So let's say on the left you can see Piyush, right? He joined us in 2011 as an intern with almost very little Drupal knowledge that he had gained in college through a means of various projects that he used to do, right? And today he is one of the prime player of our team. As the designation we have, for Piyush is he is the director of technology at QED42. So that means a lot of technical decision is made by him, right? So just see the difference from where he started and where he is now, right? So that is the impact that I'm talking about, right? He is not just a contributor, but he is responsible for creating several leaders like him as well, right? So just think of the impact that we are creating by creating such individuals, right? Astha is a known face. I think a lot of you might have attended her panel discussion today early in the morning, and yesterday we had that Splash Awards, right? So she hosted it. So she is quite active in all the community events that we have, right? So she again started with us as an intern in 2020, right? So see from there to today what she is doing, all the impact that she is bringing onto not just our organization but to the ecosystem as well, right? So I want you to think of this whole presentation or the talk in terms of 3 different levels. At an organization level, everyone here is at some or the other organization, right? how it can benefit to your organization, how it will benefit the individual, the one who is taking the internship, right? And then finally, how it eventually helps the entire Drupal ecosystem, right? The guy at the right is Alphonse, right? He is a brilliant guy. He again started with us at 2020. We just heard a talk from Jamie, right? He is one of the AI guy, right? So just think of Alphonse as, some as crazy as that guy. So so he also started with as a Drupal intern, right? So see, we didn't had plans of converting him into an AI expert, or so it depends on the interest of individual as to how, in which area they are interested in, and then how they grow from there. It's all about the internal drive that they have, right? So he is not just an individual contributor. He helps other folks who have not gained knowledge into, let's say, AI. He helped them learn that as well, right? So just think of the amount of impact these guys are making. I have a long list of people who were my interns, and who were not just my intern, but as an intern of the whole QED42 as well. The point I'm trying to bring here is the culture that we have, right? So so we have a lot of people whom I can name them, but they have been present in this DrupalCon as well, right? So I just wanted to highlight the impact of what this brings to the table and to the whole Drupal ecosystem, right? So moving on, now I want you to take a step back. The impact I just mentioned, just reflect on your own experience, okay? And then I'll ask a few questions. So please raise your hands if you are a first time attendee of any DrupalCon. Okay, I can see there are a few folks, right? Another question is like, raise your hands if you have personally mentored someone. And so when I say in a significant amount of time, let's say over a good amount of time, it's not like someone came with a problem and then you solved it. No, a significant amount of time, right? Okay, I can see few hands. The next question is, raise your hands if your organization hires candidates with either zero or very little Drupal knowledge. Okay, I can see few hands. And then raise your hands again, this is the last question. Raise your hands if you have been a part of any training program or something of that sort that eventually helped you in your career, right? So that is the whole talk that I have, right? So now so just think about this scenario. Everyone today in any organization, they don't want to hire freshers. Why they don't want to hire freshers? Because they don't bring a lot of things to the table, right? So this is like a chicken and egg problem. What do you solve first, right? So now, so in this talk, I don't want to go into the individual's perspective of as to what they should be doing. Ideally, everyone should be curious enough to know certain aspects of technology which they are interested into and go deeper into that particular thing. I'm more focused into the organizational perspective of what we as an organization can give to them, so that they can be absorbed into the system as quickly as possible, and then they eventually can become productive individuals, and which will ultimately help thrive the ecosystem, right? So as I said, imagine if we didn't have to rely on any ready-made Drupal experts. How about we build ourselves, guiding them from day one? And that's what we have done at QED42 with the help of internship. We can call this, we generally call this as internship. You can label it as any other term, depending upon what you feel like, right? But you get the idea, right? What exactly I'm trying to ask here, right? So, as I give example of, say for example, Astha, right? She is now a core committee member of DrupalCon Asia, right? Imagine the impact. So just imagine, what if you could train someone from the very early days, and then they go on to become next key player, right? So that's just one example that oops, sorry. Okay, so in the coming slides, I'm going to show exactly how we did this, okay, and then how you can do a similar thing in your organization, right? But before that, let's ask this question: why? Why does it matter? A couple of statements I've already made in the previous slides. It is like the ultimate thing would be, it is about shaping the future. It is about where it is about a future. If we don't have new folks in the ecosystem, then like there's no future, right? So when you are hiring interns, it's not just about getting a pair of hands to do the work. They are about shaping someone's career, or shaping your organization, and eventually shaping the career, shaping the future of the Drupal as well, right? So I believe in that. Like we are investing in the future of Drupal, right? See, the more people are using Drupal, learning Drupal, the better it is, right? When we bring new minds to Drupal, we are essentially creating fresh perspective to Drupal, right? Eventually we are creating the next line of leaders, right? So they will learn today something, they will eventually become leaders tomorrow, right? Which they can, that's how the continuity happens, right? And for your organization, you are essentially creating someone which is tailor made for your organization. Just do a comparison analysis of someone you have hired, who is a ready-made Drupal expert, and versus someone whom you are training from the day one, right? So that the person whom you are training from the day one is a tailor-made individual for your organization. They perfectly understand what your organizational needs are, right? And it's very easy with them, as an organization, it's very easy to work with them, right? And of course, for an individual, you are actually, giving them a good career, a good life, right? You are giving them the platform that they enjoy to work upon, right? So, but a lot of folks talk really about how the decline of Drupal is happening, right? I mean, this is not a very shocking fact, right? With the advent of AI and so many different technologies, right? There are a lot of folks who talk negatively about Drupal, saying, okay, this is not very emerging technology, right? I don't want to go into that aspect. I want to go into that aspect of where people would say, I want to see the rising wave of new talent in Drupal, right? And that's the world that I want to create, right, with help of you all. So now let's go into the individual processes. As an organization, right, if you want to hire someone, there must be some sort of requirements, right? If you don't have that requirement sorted, you will not be able to hire anyone, right? So first you need to have that organizational requirements, right? So what does success look like to you? So when I say you, I'm referring to the organization that you probably belong to, right? So what does success means to you? Is it just about someone who can do the job? It's more than that, right? At QED42, it's not just about the skills, it's about the culture. It's about finding interns who will not thrive just in a technical environment, but in an ever-evolving, dynamic environment like Drupal. We go to one event after another event, we see topics, how rapidly they change, right? So we want someone who is ready to embrace all these changes and adapt to it eventually, right? So I think that's the biggest organizational requirement. Apart from all these things, these are obviously there, but I think that's the most important requirement that we have, right? So just think about that particular requirement as we go through next slides, right? So once we have that requirement clear, then comes as to from where do we source the individuals, right? So you really need someone who can actually excel these things, right? So one thing about Drupal is that it's niche technology. It's not very beginner friendly. That's a fact as of today. Hopefully it will get increased, as we heard in a previous talks as well, as to how marketing initiative is doing a really good a great job in promoting Drupal to various other ways, right? Let's say if at the place where I belong, if we go and ask any college students, right, they hardly know about Drupal, right? It is very important for us to make a Drupal accessible to them, right? Like the more people will hear about Drupal, the more they will hear, the more they understand the capability of Drupal, what it can provide, right? The more they will be able to use it, right? So there are a lot of things, like Drupal is not like is hard to start with, and it has a very steep learning curve, right? But I don't want you to think of only on this aspect. That's a limiting belief. Okay. What we think is that the right interns are already out there. We only have to look for them in the right places, right? So what do? We actually partner with some of the local universities we have, right? We organize workshops like Drupal in a day for them, right, which helps them quick start with Drupal. So Drupal CMS is one thing that is really promising, that we can really showcase to them as to how Drupal can help them build their websites, or help them build their solutions, right? We organize certain workshops, like we give them coding challenges, etc., to help identify the individual. Remember, we are trying to spot individuals, right? We also even reach out to certain individuals who are actually looking for a shift, or are looking for a change, something. So someone might have some technology, so they are not very let's say happy with it. So we also look for certain individuals, right? So it's all about finding the potential, right? So we believe that everyone is there. It's all about finding the potential. So we as an organization, it's our duty to find the right potential, right? Say for example, in my previous slide I talked about Alphonse, right? He had no idea about Drupal. He didn't even knew what Drupal was when we first interviewed him, right? When we first interviewed him, all he knew was how to create web pages, and how, let's say, a basic website building, right? So but after having conversation with him, we knew its potential, and then fast forward to today, he is now one of our important members, contributing not just to QED42 success, but also to Drupal as well. Just think about the opportunities. If you give right opportunities to an individual, how your organization can thrive, how they can become your next key player, right? So it's a very important thing. After you spot individuals, the next thing is really about hiring. So we at QED42, we really care about hiring, as to we are very selective about hiring. We just don't want people who are there for the sake of being there, right? We want individuals who are not just technically sound, they are having a high level of behavioral qualities. Say for example, I have mentioned few qualities like someone who takes the ownership, who takes the who feels the responsibilities, right? All of these things are there, but you won't find any of these things in the CV, right? It's only when you talk to that individual as to how they respond, right? Let's say if you give a challenge on the fly, how do they respond to that challenge? Then you will understand, okay, what are the qualities that they have, right? So we have a lot of tests before we actually do the one-to-one interview. So all of these tests are meant to perform a certain amount of technical ability if someone has. Like, remember, we are talking about interns, right? We don't expect them to know Drupal, or even have heard of the word Drupal, right? We just want them, they are tech savvy and they are interested in learning new stuff, right? And then the next major thing is about all the behavior qualities that we feel, right? It's all about spotting potential and finding the right individual. If you find the right individual, then eventually success is a most probable outcome, right? And then that's the example that I give of Alphonse, right? He has grown beyond our expectation. We had thought he would become a Drupal expert, right? He has finally switched his ways to into AI world, and that's good, right? So we never know what is going to be our outcome, right? So now, so let's say once we have hired those individual folks, now the most important part comes the training part, right? As to how do you train them, right? As I said before, like Drupal has a steep learning curve. Like if we ask someone to go and learn Drupal, right? So they'll easily get confused as to where to start, how to fix a particular problem, how to build certain things. It's a really a common pitfall that they will eventually dive into, right? Our approach to training is like a journey. It's not a destination. Okay, we give interns all the right tools, documentation, obviously, mentorship, especially from a seasoned Drupal expert, right, and hands-on experience right from the very start, right. It's perfectly okay to make mistakes as long as you are not repeating the mistakes. You are and you are learning from them, right. And here's the wow factor. We have seen interns come with almost no Drupal knowledge, but after a few months, they are taking charge of projects. They are collaborating with clients, even contributing to Drupal core as well. A couple of times it has happened with me, when I'm taking an interview of an experienced developer, say for example, right, I could see a clear skill gap between them and then, our internship batch that we have, right? So so that shows, okay, where they are learning and what is the available individuals we have for, let's say, direct hiring, right? So it is actually not magic. It is actually a structured and consistent support with by which you will be able to train an individual, right? So that is one of the most important part. Personally, I on a personal level, seeing someone you help mentor grow into something, something that benefits everyone, right? That's one of the best feeling that I can have, right? Like if I have mentored someone, if they do something, then that is a very special feeling, right? So that is what I believe is the power of training, right? So let's move on to the next, which is like, after training, what we do? Hiring. Yes, you had some questions.
Yeah, another question, but yeah, just want to add before we move on to next one. So as you said that related to when you find the difference between the interns you train and the new batch which is coming up, who is little experienced 1 or 2 years in Drupal, and you find the difference. I would like to add similarly in 2018 when I started my career in Drupal. So I also was fresh out of college in 2018. I didn't knew Drupal, just did HTML, PHP, and basic static pages. Fortunately, I got first project in Drupal in the organization I was selected, but there was no internship program.
Okay.
I was just it was like I'm swimming in an ocean and I don't know how to swim. So I was just given the task and the challenges and to be done in Drupal 8.
Okay.
Wherein I started with Drupal 8, so I didn't knew the symphony architecture. I didn't knew how to code, so it was just the searches. Just a certain template in Excel was given that you should know Drupal views, Drupal this, Drupal this. Just search it out, check how it is done. Then certain tasks were from time to time given to me. So I really appreciate. I just want to add on with QED42 as an organization which has this program of intern is something which makes the base very strong. Wherein, because I feel in my initial years, which I did by fighting, by searching, which took a lot of time, not just a mentored pathway or a guidance,
Yep.
which made a couple of years, little struggling in Drupal, to be honest. And so I need to get my base strong myself, not just with a program.
Yep.
But I think with QED, it's really very good initiative.
Yep, absolutely. Like you're basically talking about the foundation, right? And with internship, we are exactly building a good foundation, right? If you have the good foundation, then you will launch into a very good trajectory, right? So having the right foundation, some people, as you rightly mentioned, some people find the foundation after some time, but if you have that foundation as early as possible, then better their careers, and eventually better the better it is for the community and the organization as well, right? So yeah, thank you for adding that thing. Okay, so now back to this line, right? After we are done with internship, right, how do we evaluate a particular individual, right? We need to do some sort of test, right? How do we do that, right? So is it like, we have, is it just like, an intern has a given set of tasks, and then once they have completed, it's over? No, it's not like that. Uh, it's a little bit is there, like they should obviously do that job that they are assigned, right? But it's more also about how good they are at technically and non technically as well, right? We evaluate internally with the help of various tasks and objectives which I mentioned, and then we have a very robust methodology of validating our interns. It can be a one-to-one interview, it can be a demonstration of technology, or or a demonstration of some sort of learnings, right? So during this time, depending upon the interns, some get onboarded onto a real project really quickly as well, right? And that is an indicator of how capable they are and how capable they have grown during that phase itself, right? So now, but here the real success is seeing interns evolve into individuals who can own projects, basically, who can make decisions, and who can thrive in an open source ecosystem that we have, right? And that's the ultimate reward, knowing that an intern can transition from a learner to a leader, right? It's not just about it's not just about their future with us, it's about the future with the Drupal community as well. Like, since we work largely on Drupal, right? So ultimately it's about the ecosystem as well, right? As a matter of fact, a majority of our interns who are, irrespective of years, a majority of our interns who have graduated with us, they have gone on to become full-time employees. A lot of them still work for us, right? And they are contributing significantly to Drupal, and of course QED42 here as well, right? So their success is basically our success, right? So I'm really proud of them. So here is just a simple metric that we have of one of our recent Drupal internship batch, right? So here on the bottom of the pyramid, you can see something like 1500 something. So that's how so that's what, so that's a rough figure. So approximately this much amount of people had given online interviews, and then not interviews, online exams, and then out of them 800 got selected, and eventually we drilled down to approximate 50 candidates whom we had taken one-to-one interviews, right? And eventually out of those 50, we were able to get 10 or so interns, right, which we had started training with, right? And out of those 10, a lot of them got actually go on to become the full-time employees, right? And they are here as well. Thank you for being here, right? By the way, we are not just focusing on Drupal internship as a QED42, right? I got a recent data from our HR saying that we had also started our AI internship batch as well, right? Which Alphonse is leading, the one which I talked about, right? From becoming an intern, now becoming a mentor, right? So that itself shows the transition that he has, right? So there also the ratio is something like this only, where we sourced somewhere around 2000 candidates, and eventually 2 got selected. And yes, we are picky about the individuals, but that's about finding the right individual, right? And soon we are going to start some other internship batches as well, according to the different need. Maybe a web internship batch as well, maybe. I am not 100% sure of this. So this is just a stat which I shared, okay? So now we have looked into enough strategies and processes that has helped us gain quality individuals, right? But nothing is 100% right, right? So same is the case with this program as well. So in the next slide, I'll share a few problems that we have encountered and would like to share it with you all. And possibly we'll get some solutions to some of these problems if you can. Okay. I have not made a very long list of slides. I have just crammed everything into this small slide, as to I don't want to talk a lot about problems, rather solutions, right? So, so if I just categorize all the problems, they are basically categorized into 3 sections. The first one is obviously a community problem. The second one is organizational problems, and the third is individual level problems, right? So let's talk about Drupal, right? So Drupal is actually not a very attractive option for the college students, right? Compared to trendy tech, I can name a lot of different technologies that are on top of their mind of every college going individual, right? Let's see, if I ask someone, what do you want to do? So they'll say X technology, Y technology, whatever. Very rare I will see someone saying, okay, I'll go into Drupal, right? So that's a community problem, which I think the community is already taking care of, which eventually will solve in the coming years, right? Then it has a very steep learning curve, right? Setup is also quite huge as compared to other technologies, right? So it becomes a little intimidating to the first timers, right? So that is one challenge, right? So these factors can make it tough to draw new developers into the Drupal ecosystem, right? Then if I just talk about the organization related problems, right? So internship duration, like I talked about how we take time to source intern, hire interns, train interns, right? It takes up a lot of time, right? So how do you manage this time, right? So that is also a challenge. And how do you, like, since the time duration is so long, we need certain mentors who needs to be available during those times, right? And all of these mentors are already occupied with their respective projects or even multiple projects a lot of times, right? And they have some other commitments to some other things that they might be doing, right? So then it becomes really challenging as an organization to spare their time, and then how do we allocate it to the interns, right? So that is an organizational problem that we have faced. We have some sort of, not exactly formula, but we have managed to get this thing done over the past few internship batch, right? So all this time and limited availability of this senior mentor, this can be a little challenging, right? So this requires a careful planning and resource allocation that we do, right? And finally, if I just talk about the individual challenges, right? So let's say we have hired 4 or let's say 10 individuals, right? Everyone learns at a different pace, right? If I go and speak to let's say 10 different folks at a time, so someone might get it very easily, someone might take a little while, right? So how do we keep up with those things, right? We don't want to hold someone for learning fast, right? So it's a matter of as to how efficient we are with that learning process, and how we deliver this process to them, right? So that is also a challenge that we face and we try to solve, right? Sometimes since we are dealing with the new folks, right? So their mind is tend to go a lot into different places, right? Rather than focusing on one aspect, right? Let's say if tomorrow some of their friends say, okay, now this is something cool that I want to show. Okay, let's see, right? So, so you can think of how their mind can divert easily, right? As to and since we are on a program, like if we ask some full-time employees, so they will do what is needed to be done, right? But for an intern or for someone who is just fresh out of college, who is curious, who is ready to explore, right? How do we we don't want to hold them person, right? Because that means you are not allowing them to grow, right? We want to channel their energies into certain areas so that they can perform better, right? So that is one few challenges that we face with individuals, right? So these challenges need to be addressed individually as well, right? It cannot be a one solution for everyone, right? It has to be dealt with individual, right? And that's where the mentor comes, right? It's they since they interact with them on a regular basis, and then they understand how their feelings are, and then how they can chart out a plan as to how they can grow individually, right? So these are some of the challenges, right? So despite these hurdles, we believe in investment in interns. Their learning journey is crucial for our team, right? It is not just for our team, but for our project as well, and eventually, since we build on Drupal applications, right, it is helping the Drupal ecosystem as well, right? We keep on brainstorming about these ideas as to what is the best practices way. Let's say in certain batch we performed that thing that worked, in certain batch it kind of worked, right? So this is an ongoing thing that we keep on discussing internally with each other, and help grow there. Okay, so now let's summarize what this all means to you. You are mentors, you on the organization that you represent, and all the leaders in the room, right? So you can't just afford to wait for the perfect candidate to fall into your lap. The reality is you have the power to create the perfect individual through a well-structured internship program, right? We call it internship, you can call it anything according to your needs, right? So basically invest in your future by creating a uh, skilled individuals, who are passionate and dedicated about Drupal or related to Drupal. Again, as I said, so when you mentor someone, right, the feeling that you get, I as a mentor, I really get that feeling. I really feel proud about them, right? But as an organization, you are not just helping your organization, but you are shaping the future of the Drupal community as well, right? So, oops, sorry. So in conclusion, let me leave you all with this. Internships are not just about hiring an intern, they are about shaping the future. They are about taking someone and giving them the tools, not only to succeed in your organization, but to change the game in the wider community as well. By helping someone, you are not just helping someone learn Drupal, you are helping your organization and the Drupal itself, right? So I challenge you all, go back to your organization and think about how you can create opportunities to nurture the next generation of Drupal leaders. I'll leave you all with this thought. Let's invest in the next generation, empower them, and together maximizing the potential of internship to shape the brighter future of Drupal. Thank you. Any questions? I'm open for question. Maybe you can, if you have any doubts, that's my handle everywhere, be it Twitter, Drupal.org, whatever. And if you want to reach out to me over email, feel free to do so. I'll be more than happy. We have a very, we have multiple internship program, upcoming and ongoing. So yeah, I'll be more than happy to have a chat with anyone who is interested in, being a mentor or, in your organization, obviously, to, you cater to all these problems that I mentioned, right? I'll wait for a couple of seconds for any questions, if anyone has.
Okay, I'll ask one. How do you take on front-end specific interns for Drupal, or it's general?
Yeah, yes and no, basically. So basically, so in our previous batches, we used to take interns for whole Drupal. We intended them to become a full stack developer, but according to their skill set, they will decide as to how they want to move forward. Let's say, if I give them the tools, let's say, okay, this is backend, this is front end. Every front end at least needs to know somewhat of the web fundamentals, right? They at least need to know the basics of the backend, how backend works, right? So that much information we give them, and now it's up to them as to where they want to move into their career, right? So we have so many interns who had who gained this basic knowledge, and then they decided, okay, I want to become a front end developer. Then they energize their energies on becoming a front end dev. Same goes with the back end, right? And same goes with someone, if they don't want to do both, they want to do something else, so they can also do that.
Next question would be, now that we're moving into Drupal where there's a big emphasis on UX, would you then consider hiring design or UX-based interns?
Yes, and as I said, our internship batches are not just limited to Drupal only. It's like we had a design interns as well. They had nothing to do with Drupal, right? They are not like they don't need to do Drupal, right? They only care like they should only care about the design, right? How they feel, what is the UX, right? So we do have them, right? So we do hire such individuals. Yep.
You mentioned about Drupal certification. How do you get that?
Like it's not a mandatory thing. Sometimes a couple of years back we had thought of this idea. Like again, this is all experimental that we're doing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work that much. Let's say in certain cases we had thought that okay, if they get a certification, let's say we have the Acquia certification only, right? So let's say if they certification, so that is like an approval from the community itself as to okay, they know at least something which can be hired, right? So that like if someone clears the certification, right, so that itself shows that okay, they have that expertise, they know about Drupal, and then we can easily onboard them onto a project, right? So that is like a sign of approval or a verification that is not required at all, but sometimes occasionally if we need, then we ask them to do it.
Sorry, last question.
Yep, go ahead.
What's in your company's experience, the average time to get them from zero to intermediate capabilities?
Right, so that is actually a very good problem question. So we have this problem continuously in our back. So so we always tend to reduce that time as much as possible, right? So again, it depends on the individual. As we have like there's no straightforward program for each and all the individuals together. Every individual, they have to learn at their own pace. Let's say there's someone who learns very fast, right? So they can onboard. Let's consider someone onboarding onto a project is the time frame from where they started to that onboarding on a project. Let's consider that time, right? So for some individual it has been, let's say, 3 months. For some individual it has been 6 months also. So it depends on individual to individual as to how fast they can learn. We give them the tools, all the mentorship that is needed, right? So we also suggest them, okay, this is what your eventually roadmap will look like as to where will you go next, what is expected from you, and if you do this, and if you come up with ideas, and eventually if you go into that particular project, so we give them a roadmap as to what they can expect in the coming days, right? So it's really up to them as to how fast they want to grow, right? So yeah. Yep, I think I have a question back. Yeah.
Does your team follow any metrics to evaluate how they are doing in the internship?
Yes, it's like so basically the 2 pointers that I mentioned. So largely all the pointers are concentrated into 2 sections. First is the technical aspect. The second is the behavioral aspect, right? So behavioral aspect is something that we really take very seriously as to how does that person think, and what is the growth mindset, and how do they contribute to the team, right? Let's say I will not be interested in hiring someone who is, let's say, who is very good at technical, but but that individual does not share something, right? Is not ready to collaborate, right? Is not a good team player. So that is a very serious aspect, right? So individual has to clear these 2 aspects. So behavioral aspect is one aspect, the other is technical, right? So in terms of technical, as we know, they are very less experienced, right? So it really boils down to as to how productive they can be at a given context, right? Let's say, for example, they are working on a, let's say, layout builder, for example, right? So how well they can understand the whole structure, how well they can deliver a solution, how well they can, let's say, if a mentor is suggesting something, how well they can understand that thing, right? So it depends on the context, right? So as we said, we focus more on hiring and getting the right candidate. If we get the right candidate, it's just a matter of mentorship, and then rest the individual will automatically catch up. Thanks. If any other questions? Okay then, it was nice having you all. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you.